All right, everybody, let's get going. Let us get going. All right, I should have brought a fork or a spoon. I always forget. Yeah, yeah. Get all the girls with the acrylic nails and boys, I suppose, um, click their glasses. Welcome to the Okanagan Real Estate Investment Group. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Julie. I'm one of the founders. We founded this group back in 2016, and I'm really happy that all of you are here tonight. Tonight is going to be absolutely amazing, and before I get into things, I want you to think about a question. Why are you here? What is your why? Are you here because you're just interested in land, in infill developments? Are you looking for other opportunities in this very exciting and dynamic market? Or are you just trying to maybe make your financial future a little more certain and have a little bit more control? For me, my why has always been family. So when we started investing in real estate back in 2001, I love the concept of the money side of things, but I really wanted to be able to spend as much time as I could with my children. And so now, after 5 kids, over 300 deals, a lot of ups, a lot of downs, my husband and I have been able to build financial independence through real estate investing. And so my youngest is 16, my oldest is 23, and I'm going to be a grandma in July. Yeah, I'm already a grandma, but the baby's going to come into the world in July, hopefully not earlier than that, probably later. I was always 2 weeks late. Let's not get into that. So because of real estate, we're actually able to help them out. And in fact, we are renovating our basement suite so that they can move in. They're a young couple. And I get to hang out with my grandchild. I get to help them in a way that we didn't have help in those days. And they are hopefully going to be able to save and just get a little bit of a leg up. And it's a privilege to be able to do that. And again, that's because of real estate investing. So I'm really excited that you're here, regardless of your why. And of course, it's not so much about the wealth, but about the choices and the freedom and having options. So in the last couple of months, I can't remember the name of the company, but I remember hearing about how a company decided to lay off half of their staff, 40 people. And the first thing I thought of is I hope all of them have real estate investing as a skill, because it is definitely something that you can fall back on. I hope they have property, because a lot of people have been able to build a lot of equity in the last 10 years. And because real estate is a skill, it's something that you can take no matter where you go and create abundance with. And it's definitely a skill. And right now, the Okanagan is full of opportunities. We're in a buyer's market. Properties are sitting for longer and longer, and a lot of them are vacant. And so that means there's a chance for smart investors, people that are in this room, who take time out of their Thursday night to come out and learn about something like infill developments, instead of all the other things that you can do, especially here, especially now that the weather's getting warmer. I think that big snow did me a favor by bringing everybody out to me. I'm always competing with outdoor patios. So it can help you step into the ability to create housing, which is very much needed, and to also create long-term wealth at the same time. So tonight we have a couple of great speakers who are going to show you how to turn one house into many houses, or how to maximize any kind of property's potential depending on the type of property. And again, the topic is especially important because of the demand for housing in the Okanagan. People still want to live here. We're just in a really interesting time. So again, thank you all for being here. Please join me in welcoming to the Okanagan Real Estate Investment Group for the first time, Andre and Jamila.
Thank you. Thanks for having us, everyone. I am going to be up front right now. I have a little tickle in my throat, and she decides to play whenever she wants to. And so Andre's up here with me. He's going to help me. We actually do a radio show together, and we work together, so it makes perfect sense that he's up here. But if I just stop talking and start drinking buckwheat straight out of this bottle, that's what's going on. So I'll tell you a little bit about us, about myself. We're both real estate investors. I started buying rental properties the last time everyone thought the sky was falling, when the U.S. was going into turmoil. So I'm just like, yeah, let's do it again. Here we go. So it's interesting to see a new cycle coming up in the real estate market, though it can feel very painful right now because it is very flat in the Okanagan and in BC. Construction costs are high, development costs and taxes are high, but we all know with the investor mindset in all of that, there's always an area where something works. And right now, infill development is an area where something works. A big part of that, and I started doing infill construction and infill development about 10 years ago, which was when Andre and I met.
Yeah.
When he built his first fourplex.
That's right.
And at that time, it was not top of mind for municipalities. It was very much about, I don't want more parking in my neighborhood. I don't want you to take down my trees. I don't want a new house in the backyard that looks into my backyard. And the government supported the neighbors in what they didn't want. And for Kelowna, it was only about 8 years ago,
The RU7.
when they introduced the RU7 zoning. Is everyone in here familiar with the RU7 zoning in town? So if you go into the pocket of downtown that's just on this side of Richter, basically from Knox Mountain all the way just past the hospital, you'll see all these fourplexes that have popped up in that neighborhood, and old houses have come down. So that was the first.
All the two-story ones.
Two-story ones, yeah. That was the first time Kelowna municipality and the planners were able to get a densification zone through the council and through the public and bring it to fruition. And at the time, you could buy those properties for $250,000, $300,000 bucks. You could build a fourplex for $1 million. You could sell a unit for $500.
Just over, yeah.
Yeah. Rent it for,
at the time, $2,500 a month.
Beautiful investment. Now, what Kelowna did was they only upzoned 750 odd properties.
Yeah.
Everyone found out very quickly, and they got bought up really quickly, and it was a span of, I'm going to say 8 months. They went from 250 to 350 a piece to 8 to 900,000 and soared from there. Peaking out, I think 1.3, 1.4 million at one point.
Yeah, that was like in COVID where everything was already
crazy.
Going crazy.
Yeah.
But those zones, 1.3, 1.4 was easy.
If you were buying in that time, like, I'm sorry, like that the whole herd was buying, and that's not the time to be buying. If you bought before, like, congratulations. Or if you sat and you own one of those right now, beautiful, beautiful position to be in. But what has happened through COVID and our housing crisis that they have deemed across Canada, which if you look at our housing inventory on MLS, you will wonder where this housing crisis is. It is based on reproduction numbers and immigration numbers is the biggest thing driving it. There's a good chance when we see, look how hopeful I am, when we see a government change, I didn't even have to say it, everyone knew what I was talking about, that they're going to reduce their immigration that they're taking in. That forecast is going to change the projection of housing numbers, and who knows what that's going to end up doing to what they say is a housing crisis. But that's like the biggest swing right now in how they're calculating all of that out. The reality is, in Kelowna, we have massive amounts of MLI Select or CMHC government rental housing that's gone in. I sat at a breakfast this morning with Train Construction, who did a lot of the stuff around the mall. They're done. They're sitting 50% empty, looking for people to go in them.
And that's a good one. There's some that are at 10% that have been done for a year. So
10% full or occupied?
Full.
10% occupied.
90% vacant.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
For a year.
But keep in mind, this is a very specific product, because in those same conversations, the 3 bedrooms are all leased up.
Yeah, they get calls for 3 bedrooms all the time.
Your 2-bedroom, 1-bath, crappy construction, entry level, you wouldn't really want to live there. Those are the ones that are sitting. And so
you guys should be punching holes in walls on 2 bedrooms, 1 and 2 bedrooms, and boom,
Yeah.
3 bedrooms.
there you go.
Quick fix.
I wish it was that easy. I mean, that sounds like you came from another province, because they just don't make things that easy in BC.
Yeah.
However, doom and gloom, okay, that's what's going on. Where are the opportunities? So, as we touched upon, 3-bedroom is a big opportunity. 3-bedroom rental. There is a need and demand, and will continue to be, because the fact is, relying on what they're calling citizen developers or individual homeowners to add to their properties to create this inventory, it's just not going to happen fast.
Yeah.
So that's an area that it can't really get flooded out that quickly. The other thing is producing one thing that went on in Kelowna specifically. And we're knowledgeable on lots of the municipalities throughout the Okanagan. I know there's some people from Summerland and Penticton here. Penticton's totally landlocked. Like, they can only go up. They've had a great densification program for decades. Anyone else? Vernon, Lake Country. Vernon, also weird angled city, but they have a great densification. A lot of big lots too. So there's a lot of opportunity in that market as well. Lake Country. I'm sorry. Not Enderby. I'm sorry, Lake Country. No one's from Lake Country. Enderby, though? Did someone say Enderby? Yeah. So lots of room, lots of space, lots of depth. The municipality is absolutely painful to deal with.
It's getting better though. They've got a new mayor who's actually more pro-development now.
Yeah.
So it's changing slowly.
It takes a long time to get things through. A long time. So in the Kelowna market, I would say 7 to 8 years ago, 6 to 7 years ago, the city decided they weren't sprawling out their development anymore. They said no more single-family homes in the hills. This is not how we're going to do it. It's too expensive to service. There's too much draw on the service, water, sewer, power to get out there. They need to put their housing supply into densification. And so they wanted 25% of the housing supply to come from single family, 50% to come from condos. You can see that has happened, and 25% to come from infill development. And that was the beginning of the surge forward in densification of properties in Kelowna, the RU7 program.
Yeah.
And then following suit, not just British Columbia, but all across Canada, the governments decided that the solution to affordable housing and the housing crisis is going to be homeowners developing their land and adding more houses. So there was a mass push across the country for densification in Canada. I am not fully up to speed on what every single province did, but in BC, they the government basically said, municipalities, you're going to densify all your single family home lots. We want at minimum 3 stories and 4 doors on every lot. You figure it out from there. So there were municipalities that loved this. We're already in that progression stage, Kelowna being one, Penticton being another one. There's municipalities that kind of thought it was like a joke and they were going to take it back, an optional thing, and got caught a little flat-footed at the deadline of June. But now every single municipality has densified their single family. They've all done it in slightly different ways. West Kelowna, they've done duplexes with suites is what they allow over there. So you can't actually get the 4 stratified doors. You get 2 stratified doors, but there's suites in there, so that's how they get away with their 4 units. Kelowna's gone big. You can 4 doors. They have zoned areas where you can do 6 doors. They do have thank goodness you have to park 1 car in each of them because the neighborhoods could be muddy afterwards, but it's just 1 parking stall per unit. A lot of the times parking really holds you up in how you can densify properties. But the point for that rant, you gotta keep me on track here.
I'll try. I always try.
Is that there's no new Wildens, there's no new McKinleys, there's no new Black Mountains coming. Even if they changed their mind today and went, oops, we should have kept going with single family, it would take a developer to buy the swath of land, have the investment to create lots. It would be years coming to fruition before it became available to even start building on and producing more single family homes. So we all know there is a buyer that comes to this city and buys a $2 million house in McKinley or $1.8 million house in Wilden, right? That is going to reduce itself. So this missing middle product they keep talking about, now this is my opinion. We've had townhomes forever. That is not a missing middle product. We've always had townhomes, 1,500 square foot townhomes, 1,200 square foot townhomes. There's a place for a 2,000 square foot product that accommodates that single family home living in the inner city style. So in my opinion, there's a bit of an opportunity there to produce that product as well. But we'll get it more into the infill development today.
Yeah.
So who here owns land in the city?
Like a property with land, yeah?
Yeah.
There's a few?
Yeah.
Okay.
So depending, do you want to give a brief description on like the core zones?
Sure. Yeah, that's what I was gonna do. So when the city of Kelowna came in and they created what was known as the permanent growth boundary, so that essentially delineated this area that said new developments can only be within this bounds if you want to be part of city of Kelowna. It can't be outside of these bounds. There was actually like developments above the ponds that were ready and at the city's door that got shut down because this permanent growth boundary came in. So it was pretty serious and it's pretty concrete, and there's no mention and no plan to expand this permanent growth boundary. Now, inside of that permanent growth boundary, there's what's known as the core area of Kelowna. And the difference between kind of the core and then outside of the core and within the permanent growth boundary is the number of maximum units you can do on a lot. So inside of the core, you have MF1, so every single family home lot went to MF1. You can do 6 units maximum. If you can park it, if you can fit it, whatever site dimensions you need, but you can go up to 6. Between the core and the permanent growth boundary, you can go up to 4. Again, you have to make sure it fits, but there's creative ways to do that. You can go up to 4. On top of that, they've created urban centers. So there's 5 urban centers: Pandosy downtown, Capri, the mall in Rutland. Within those urban centers, you have urban center zoning, which is then just an FSR, FAR calculation. And so you're not limited to a number of units, you're limited to a number of square footage. And so those you're allowed even more density. And then one other layer on top of that is around transit hubs, which is the hospital, Rutland, and the mall. There's no parking restrictions. College, that's right. There's no parking restrictions. So in those areas, you have development based on density and not units, and no parking restrictions. So you have some creative options on those pieces as well. For all intents and purposes though, 4 doors on RU1, 6 doors on MF1. That's mostly what you're gonna run into unless you're really targeting out urban center zones.
So another thing to keep in mind with these properties is that you don't need to tear it down and build out
Yeah.
4 or 6 or whatever the max density is. You can get creative with how you do your mix. If you've got a lot of front yard, a lot of backyard, you can add units within that property to get to your unit count. There's a lot of 80s box houses, is what I call them. I learned a few weeks ago they're actually called Vancouver Specials. Is that correct? Yeah. Everyone knows what I'm talking about. The split level either still has a carport or it's been boxed in, got a big deck on top of that. These are built on big lots, especially in the Rutland area and the what do they, Springfield area? What do they call the, between Rutland and behind the old Costco? What do they call that? South Rutland?
Midtown?
Yes, a lot of big old lots in there. Even in the Lower Mission, where I'm like, you turn down corners you've never turned down before, and you can find some nice big lots, old properties this side of Richter. Like a lot of developers, even this side of Gordon, haven't gone in there and touched a lot of that stuff yet.
What about in West Kelowna?
Yes.
Lakeview Heights is a
great.
gold mine.
That's wonderful.
I have been saying that for a long time.
Yeah, Lakeview Heights is great.
Yeah.
You've got to play with City of West Kelowna zoning though, so you can't do your 4 kind of like this.
Okay.
You've got to do them stacked with suites.
But the lots are so big that the subdivision comes into play
Yeah,
at that time. Yeah.
Maybe we'll get into that after.
Yeah.
The beauty with infill right now is that Jamila is saying you can keep your existing house and you can add units behind it. So let's say you've got a rental property with a house in the front that you're renting out for $3,500 a month, and you've got room in the back. Well, if you're in an RU1 zoning, you can add a triplex in the back, and your land cost is already like vended in. So your delta, your differential is just your construction cost. And so essentially all you're doing is you're calculating your yield based on just your construction cost, which is why this makes sense in the environment that we're in right now, which is like a really flatline market, is you're making money just on construction cost. You don't have to worry about the land cost anymore.
Basically, the best position to be in as a developer is have a land bank, and the BC government just made every single family homeowner a land bank for development. And when you look at, when he's talking about like keeping the house up front and building a triplex, you can even get 4plexes back there. It may seem crazy if you haven't visualized that out when you're looking at this backyard all the time and your kids have grown up playing it. You're like, how can I put a 4plex back there? But when you're designing and building out infill, it's important to work with people who do this, because there is strategic window placement, there's strategic soundproofing, and there's strategic landscaping layouts that are cheap and easy to add in, but create private spaces so that you are maintaining good space for everyone and a good living environment on the property as well.
And regardless if you're going in the core or if you're going in the suburban zone, so RU1 or MF1, you can go to 3 stories. And so your parking becomes less of an issue because you can attach the garage to the unit. So if you're doing 3 side by side, you don't have to worry about creating a parking structure somewhere else or screening your parking. You can just attach that straight to the home, which ends up being more desirable for tenants or for resale anyways.
One thing to think about if you're looking at your property yourself too and trying to think of what you can do, is that in most municipalities, you can only have one drive aisle in, one driveway coming in off the street.
Yeah.
And or if you're on a lane, most municipalities prefer all parking to then revert to the back off of the lane, because that's the future planning of the community, is traffic on the lanes, walking in the front.
They need to start paving some of those lanes again if they wanna do that.
Repaving, yeah. Well, that's what our sidewalk
Yeah,
improvement
it
fee
should
dollars
be-
are supposed to be
should be
going
doing.
to, right? Yeah. So, I mean, at the end of the day, there's a lot of opportunities, and like some of the infill that has been done, you see these garages built off the back. There's so, like, where's the units on top of the garage, I always say when we're driving around, and now the old zoning could only max out at 2 stories. That's why you saw the garage in the back and the units up front. 3 stories is like, it's what you're looking for all row housing. And you go into any townhome communities, you come in and your garage is on the bottom, there's a stairwell going to the next level of living space and the next level of bedrooms. So this rezoning has given that ability to accomplish that in a lot of different ways.
Does anybody here know Mosaic Builders out of, right, so Mosaic is, I mean, it had a reputation in Vancouver for being super cookie cutter, but I had huge respect for them because they could just get projects done that were incredibly profitable. And what they would do is they would just do skinny townhomes, and they had the 3 stories, which was the key aspect of their whole business plan. They were able to make narrow, deep, and tall living spaces, creatively kind of interior design them so that it fit every bedroom, but you would just be able to stack density sideways. And a lot of people really enjoy the ground-oriented nature of homes rather than having to get into a common room and go to your condo. And even though, let's say, your square footage might be the same between a 1,000 square foot condo or an 1,100 square foot townhouse, it's just a different mindset that, you know, in North America, we still like that. This is my home because I can now walk into it off the street. So that's kind of what this new zoning has opened up, is just the possibility to create density in townhomes like you couldn't really do it before.
So coming a need right now, 3-bedroom
Yeah.
units, 3-bedroom rental units. The other thing with this zoning is you can stratify the property and you can sell units off.
Mhm.
So when you're creating your business plan for this, there's a lot of different options. You can factor in rental revenue, you can factor in sales revenue, you can factor in both when you're looking at trying to make it happen. You sell off one, you keep the rest. So it all really depends on your financial situation going into it. But there's a lot of options to make it work for any size real estate investor, right? Like, not everyone has deep pockets. We've been using other people's money trying to make these happen. So here's a great way to open up land equity, leverage that into your construction, pay off your construction with your rental or sales of one and keeping another one, just depending, you know, where you're at in life, how much debt you want to manage, and how much renters you want to manage.
You mentioned the subdivision play too.
Yes, yeah.
The subdivision idea is essentially the bylaw says that if you have an RU1 lot, you can go up to 4 units, right? That's the bylaw.
Mm-hmm.
But if you buy a really big RU1 lot and you
The
cut
unicorns.
it in half, well then you have 2 RU1 lots. So you can actually do 8 units, and you can do creative things like put a drive aisle down the middle that's shared by both now parcels.
Mm-hmm.
And so your 8 units are fed only by 1 drive aisle. The city really likes that because you only have 1 access for 2 lots now.
Mm-hmm.
But you can essentially double your density or pay half price for your land, which way you want to think about it. Those are unicorns, like there's not that many out there.
What is your minimum size for subdivision?
Great question.
Great question.
Do we know it off the top of our head?
I don't know it off the top of my head. It's around 14 to 15 meters for RU1s. It's on the zoning bylaw. We can kind of go through that.
we also offer free consultations with people to understand like what they can do, whether they're looking at buying properties or have existing properties. So if you guys have any like specific land you want to talk to us about, we would love to book a meeting with you after and talk specifics that way. It's hard to keep it all up here, right?
Yeah.
With all the municipalities and all of the zoning, but finding properties that you can subdivide and then utilize the zone twice is definitely a really good opportunity right now.
Yeah.
So good, actually, we met with an architect who builds a lot of condos, everything like 5, 6, and more units. And he was they designed a condo for a project, and with all the inventory and where the landscape it is now, they're actually, and they went through rezoning and all the things, they're like, nope, scrap it, let's down zone everything, subdivide ground orientated townhomes.
Yeah.
And they're going in that direction.
Yeah, so they actually went fully backwards, back down to ground oriented units. A lot of the so we've been doing these free consultations for a couple of weeks now with homeowners. If you are on a piece of property within one of these zones and you can go up to 4 or 6 units, keep in mind too that if you live there and it's your primary residence, those 4 to 6 units can be Airbnb'd because you are on your primary residence. Just putting that idea into people's minds, because it's maybe something with all the regulations and stuff that's come out over the last few years, it's something people don't really think about anymore, but you can Airbnb the units that you create if they're on your property but they're away from your house.
This has been a big one with people we've been talking to about downsizing, because downsizing right now, like, it's not the greatest selling market. And if you're going to sell, we actually met a couple that bought their home 10 years ago, and they both do very well. They have great incomes, but they wouldn't even be able to buy their own home today if it was on the market. And so they
wouldn't qualify yet.
Yeah, they'd be selling their home and then going, and they want something new. They're in the Lower Mission, they want to stay in the neighborhood. They'd be straight across just putting it all right back in to a townhome that's new or a condo that's new. And so this opened up the opportunity, let's build your condo in the front yard, in their case, because they already turned the backyard into a pool. Let's add a couple more units to it for kids that come back and visit, and family members that are going to need housing in the future. And in the meantime, Airbnb it all, including their beautiful family home that has the pool in the back, which is probably going to get them $1,000 to $1,200 a night through the summertime here. And it drastically changes their financial future and what their retirement looks like, instead of just doing a lateral move. So like, there's a lot of great opportunities to create some quick wealth in your existing properties, especially if you've owned them for that 10 years or more mark. Even 5 years is still great because of the upswing in the market, but that 10-year or older mark is like a real sweet spot.
Yeah, if you're coming in and buying a property to do a project, that's where you have to get a good deal. Like, you have to really know your numbers and make sure you're buying
in the Okanagan right now.
Make sure you're buying something where you know exactly what you're doing and that you're getting your land value as low as you can.
Yeah. The challenge there is that, it's the construction costs are high in the Okanagan when you compare to other provinces. Like, Alberta's on fire right now.
Oh yeah.
They're still building at costs that we built 10 years ago at
almost exactly like we did 10 years ago.
Yeah, and we're actually looking at doing stuff there because of what the opportunities are there. But we also all know that when Alberta's hot, they're coming to spend and play all that money here, so we won't be far behind that market, because we are a luxury market, but it is an expensive to build. So what's going on right now is that our sales have really flatlined in the last year and a half, especially in new construction. And even when sales start coming back, it's going to be in old inventory before it hits new construction again. So, but prices haven't really dropped. If there's a desperate seller, you're going to get a deal, but the actual prices haven't quite dropped. But when you put together a business plan for a new construction project and you take that to the appraiser and you look for a comparable resale in the last 12 months, there might be 4 or 5 options that come up.
Yeah, maybe.
And when it comes to infill, there's going to be even less because there is some inventory out there, but there's just not a lot of sales in the last 12 months to show that. So it's hard for banks to do to look at these and do appraisals. So a lot of projects are moving ahead with private lending, and those are great options when you're doing construction projects. You just factor in a bit of a higher interest rate through construction, and then it gets rolled into a traditional mortgage at the end because banks love finished product. They hate construction. Well, they won't tell you they hate construction, but they don't like it that much. They hate construction. Yeah. So like that, those are kind of the techniques you use to get construction projects going and done. But it is hard to make these numbers work. So that's why you see not a lot of new construction happening right now.
Almost none.
Yeah, in the residential side.
Yeah.
And so this just opens this beautiful window of opportunity for land bankers that have land equity to utilize that for qualification and use rental incomes for proof of property. The mortgage broker is sitting here. I'm waiting for him to be like, nope, that's not. But I must be on track so far because he hasn't corrected me. But utilize rental estimates and that gets added to your own income in order to qualify out for the project. And that's how these projects are a great opportunity to move forward with and get financing on.
And the kind of the flip side of the slowdown that we've seen is that there isn't a lot of new inventory coming up. So I feel that because there's not a lot of new inventory coming up, everything's a little bit slow. The market, I feel like, can be very sensitive to injections of capital at this point. Like once it starts going, because there's not this huge backlog of new projects coming onto the market, once it starts to go, especially in a smaller place like Kelowna, we're really sensitive to injections of capital. So once it starts going, it's really going to start going, and then we might end up in a situation, especially with rates going down like we're seeing them because of all the tariff stuff and what's happened over the last few years. You might see another like really quick pop, just because there's nothing new out there. There's no projects upcoming. The pipeline for even a lot of the big guys is pretty dry. Nobody's starting anything new, especially in the for sale side. There's like almost nothing coming on. So
it's dry.
It's really dry.
And it takes a long time to get things started. So when the market does shift, it's not like everyone can just bring inventory for sale right away. These development projects, they take about 2 years to execute on. And so the initial planning, development, costing, and just creating the plan of what you're going to do takes about a year. And then you flip into your building permit stage and you go into construction, and then that's going to take on average another year. So the great thing about this, especially with the climate of what's going on in the world today, is you can go into that development stage with a minimal investment, creating your plans, doing your survey, doing your DP applications, designing it out, pricing it out, and understand what this is really going to cost you. But you can hold that development permit for 2 years. So if there's a shift or change, or you think you want to wait it out a year because inventory is still high, or it doesn't, whatever, you have a lot of control and options at that point, and then you're also ready to pull the trigger faster than anyone else too.
And if you go to the BP stage and you actually get a building permit in, you're protected against the code changes that inevitably will happen over the next 5 years.
Yeah.
like step code. Does everybody know about step code and what that kind of is? So step code is energy efficiency. The gist of it is step code 1 to step code 5. We're kind of at step code 3 right now. Step code 5 is coming over the next 5 years. That just means that buildings are becoming more efficient, which is good, but it's also more expensive, which is bad. But if you put your building permit in now, you're locked in at that step code that you're currently at. So even if step code goes up to step code 4 or 5, you're locked in at that 3. You have to build at step code 3, and so you're protected from that escalating cost on the back end.
Step code 5 is net zero ready. So you essentially could add solar panels to the roof and your house is off the grid. And this is mandated to every municipality in BC has to build all new construction to that by 2030.
And it's also very tied politically because the Conservative Party of BC wants to take it away, the NDP wants to keep it in, and so at the next election, who knows what's going to happen. It was like a coin flip this year anyways, so we'll see.
Yeah, the problem is that it is part of building code.
Yes.
And there's lots of things in the construction and stratification process that triggers you to bring old buildings up to building code and so on. And the changes between the steps are so drastic that if you ended up in a situation where you're stratifying 3 years down the road and you built this new building brand new, but the step code has changed, there's a possibility you would have to bring that up to code. And the problem with step code is its insulation values and its air tightness and seal of the home. So in some cases it means tearing the whole exterior off the home, adding more insulation, redoing your air tightness seal, and then putting the exterior back on.
And it's a problem if you build with 2x4s because there's not enough room in a 2x4 wall to add the insulation you need.
Yeah, basically a 70s home or older potentially could need drastic upgrades if you don't plan properly in the way you do your business plan for your adding units to your home. So there's a huge Tetris puzzle that goes into redeveloping an infill of your property. You do want to have the right team that you're working with and guide. As in real estate investors, you all know, use other people's knowledge as well as other people's money. It's in BC specifically, also because of the layering of this energy code. If you went out and got some rough drawings done by a drafting company to just get through your DP permit, which is what you technically only need to do for your development permit stage, you could get to the end of your development permit with a drawing that you can't even build because the windows are too big or they face the wrong direction, and they don't meet energy code. So it's really important to do full construction drawings and have the input of a builder, development consultant, an energy advisor, right up front, and then you know you have a feasible project, and you also know you've really eliminated a lot of hidden costs that can come up if you run into a building permit too fast without going through all those steps and stages. And you don't technically need to, right? So if you go into the city, they're just going to tell you what you need to have for the application, right? They're not builders. They also can't recommend you to anyone by collusion laws and all that kind of stuff. Thanks, Karen. Sorry, that was my own little rant there. It is a complicated.
And it's changing
process.
so fast. Sometimes they don't even know, right? Like the people you talk to at this counter at the city, like over the last 5 years, we've had more building code changes than in the last, 15.
Yeah.
It's changing so fast right now. That it's super important to mitigate risk. You need to have the plans done. Yeah, it'll cost you a bit more up front, but at least you know what you're walking into, and at least you can plan better.
The best thing about the changes right now is that municipalities from the city, provincial, and national governments are all pro this
Yes.
happening. So 5 years ago, even walking in to try and get a carriage home done, you would have had to do a public hearing and like shake babies and kiss hands of all your neighbors and make sure they didn't care about you taking your tree down. Like, very frustrating. Now they don't care what your neighbors say.
Yeah, it's more seamless.
They want housing. The red tape, they don't put your plan in front of council and let the city show up to have their parking dispute. It's staff approved, which most people on council have never even built anything before, so that is much better. You want a professional engineer and a professional planner to be approving what you're going to do. So it's just easier than ever to put things through, more complicated than ever to create the business plan. So work with a development consultant that does this and then you can come up with the right plan that's going to actually make you money in the end, which is what we all want, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. How are we doing for time?
Yeah.
I think we're about 5 minutes away from 40 minutes, which
Okay.
is kind of what we budgeted for.
Okay.
Any questions? Yes.
Well, I just had a comment. I'm a property manager, and the applicants that I've been seeing, the tenants, are coming out of condos. They're like, we've got to get out of the condo. It is too small. I'm losing my mind. And they are really looking for those larger spaces to spread out a little bit, and also have a little bit of outdoor space, like beyond the, your little balcony that you have. So there's kind of a, I think there's going to be a condo backlash for people are like, man, we don't want to live in these things. They are way too small. And so just to support what you said, that 3 bedrooms, 2 baths for sure are going to be very popular.
And the reality is, when you look at the rental market versus the purchasing market, like a condo to a townhome or an oversized infill, price-wise, if you're buying it, there'd be a bit of a jump there. So you would have a certain buyer that could only buy condos, and a certain buyer buy this, and a certain buyer buy single families. When you're looking at renters, it is straight up a bedroom calculation, right? Doesn't matter how fancy it is, it matters how many bedrooms are in the place for how much you charge. All that person does is get another roommate, and now they have a bigger place to live in. And no one is doing a 10-step welfare check on their income to make sure that they can qualify if the government does something stupid and makes everything expensive, right? So going to a 3-bedroom rental, you still have that huge rental pool to choose from. You just have a more competitive product than what's out there right now. Yeah.
And sorry, just one more thing on that. The 3-bedroom townhouse, what I found in the past, because I have a 4-plex that we built that's 3-bedroom, 3 bathrooms for each unit. A lot of people end up in the townhouse that we built because the comparable 3 bedrooms is a single family house, and then that rental difference is just so large that they go towards the townhouse, and so that's kind of the trend that we've been seeing as well.
Yeah, so I just wanted to clarify, and I think you just did, that the 3 bedroom is the most desirable product if you're gonna build something.
Yeah.
That's where I would go. Yeah. And the silver lining for condos too is, if you have a condo within the right zoning, I think in the next 5-ish years, we will see changes to the Airbnb laws where they do get approved within certain zonings of the city. Probably within those urban centers is where we'll see Airbnb come back into the condo sphere. But again, that's
just our opinion.
That's speculation.
We have a radio show that we do on AM 1150, and we always say, this is the News Talk Sports Station. This is the talk show, not the news show. This is our opinion. Yeah.
How about this, everybody? We'll do a networking break, and what usually comes out of that is more questions.
Sure.
And then we'll have Q&A after I get up and do some announcements and that kind of thing. Is that cool?
Sounds good.
All right, great. So, thank you guys. Wow. Is it okay? Fantastic. Aren't they great?
I
Well,
doing
now
that.
you know you need to get your nails done between now and next month. Thanks, Ian. I recorded that. Got a record. Okay, everybody. So, real quick, I just want to go over upcoming events, talk a little bit about ORIG and ORIG membership. Then we're going to do open mic, and I'll explain what that is. And then we're going to get the experts back up for a Q&A. Sound good? All right, awesome. So April, we have Darren. I forget the dates. So if anybody wants to look up the third Thursday of April, that would be fantastic. In the meantime, Darren Jacklin is returning to the Okanagan Real Estate Investment Group. This will be like his 5th appearance. He's a magical guy. He's just a great guy. You always feel better after listening to Darren for an hour and meeting him. So I encourage you to do whatever you can to make it out here. Anyone with the third Thursday?
17th.
April 17th. Thank you so much. And if somebody could look up May 3rd Thursday, that'd be fantastic too. I bet Melanie knows it because the beautiful lady in the green top, Melanie Robinson, give everybody a wave. She's coming out in May to speak with us about mindset. She herself is a very successful real estate investor, an entrepreneur, and a thinker outside of the boxer. And she gets the mental blocks that can sometimes happen to entrepreneurs because, I think I was just talking to Megan about this. The Eat What You Kill Pay program is awesome for freedom, but sometimes the deep freeze is broken or there's slim pickings or something goes sideways and it can be scary. So she's going to come out and help us with that and tell some stories about her own journey. So that's going to be amazing. Mike Wolf will be here in June, third Thursday of June 19th, June 19th. Thank you, Christine. Mike Wolf is a Canadian who invests in United States real estate, and he's been training Canadians to do that very successfully for the last 15 or 20 years. And I think it'll be his 3rd time back here at the Okanagan Real Estate Investment Group, and there's a lot that's happened since the last time he was here. So that's going to be a great event. I want to say hello to Megan Steele. Megan came and spoke to us 3 years ago about short-term rentals. So if you haven't met Megan, make sure you introduce yourself. She is a very successful woman, a hustler. She's gone through some challenges because her focus is short-term rentals, and I know she's succeeding through that because that's what she's made of, and I really appreciate you making the trip up here. And when she came to speak, we had like 3 more tables packed full. And so what's great about that is whether, successful people do successful things and they know how to get through tough times. And so welcome back. It is always awesome to see you, Megan. All right, ORIG membership. Everybody got their credit cards out? And locate your credit card. Yeah, make you run to the back of the room and give me all your money. So get ready, because this sales pitch is going to be captivating. All right, the best people to talk to about whether or not you should join ORIG are the people with the lanyards, the fancy lanyards like Megan's. That's what this group is all about, connecting people on a regular basis so that you know that you're not alone. Because again, Melanie's coming to talk about mindset, and it's always just good to know that you're not alone on this journey, no matter where you're at in the journey. And so I encourage you to do that. We have 3 levels of membership. It's all monthly membership like a gym. $47 a month for kind of part-timers, $97 a month for a single membership, and $147 a month for anybody that wants to partner up and join as a team. That includes bi-monthly mastermind online events that I host digitally, and some people are ORIG members in other parts of the country and in the United States, so it's a great place to come together for more education, and we cover all kinds of topics there. You get access to the Street Smart Buyer program, which is a program I created. It will give you infinite potential because it's primarily focused on how to buy and sell properties creatively. You get access to my free real estate investment tools. I've worked with people that have found deals just by using the free tools. So they're incredibly valuable. And on top of that, you get access to all of the previously recorded events that we have recorded since 2016. So we've got topics like sales, rent to own, multifamily, personal growth, what else? Wholesaling, just how to find deals, renovation adventures, flipping adventures. We have raising capital. We have several events on raising capital. So all of those events. Hey, I love Joe Rogan, but he's hardly ever talking about real estate. And all of these are very, very real estate and entrepreneur focused. So it's a great way to learn while you're driving, while you're working out, whatever. So that's how that works. What else? Am I leaving anything else about membership? No? I don't think so. Great. Now, next we have open mic. But before we talk about open mic, I do want to introduce you to our newest member of the OREG team, which is Christine Niveau. Just go ahead and give everybody a wave. Christine is a real estate investor. She's also a very experienced real estate related bookkeeper, and she also owns a cleaning company. So she's an entrepreneur with many hats, and she's going to be helping me more with OREG events because we're growing and growing, and you can't grow anything successfully without an amazing team. So very glad to have you here. You're probably going to hear from her at some point in the future as reach outs, as event invites, and event follow-ups. So if you're wondering, why is Christine trying to get a hold of me? That's probably why. Okay? Great. And now open mic. Open mic is for any monthly OREG member. You get 90 seconds to talk about your deal, your opportunity, your service, or you can share a success story. So it's a great way for one person to speak to many, because not only are we talking to everybody in this room, but we're also talking to all the people that listen to the recording, right? And so we will start that after I introduce to you our OREG sponsor, Kim Hoolan, who is a property manager. She's my property manager, actually. I just hired her. She's already doing a phenomenal job. It's something that I've had a really tough time delegating because I've had some very interesting stories with property managers in the past. And one thing that I really like about Kim is I just know she cares. I know she can take care of us, she can take good care of our properties, and she's going to take great care of our tenants. So I'm so excited that she's decided to be a sponsor. So she's also a very experienced real estate investor. So she's walking the talk too, okay? And well, I do want to talk about sponsorship real quick. If you're interested in sponsorship, I know everybody that's sponsored OREG in the past have done very well, have generated a lot of business. One of our realtor sponsors said that her sponsorship was covered for the next 4 years because of all the business that was generated through being a sponsor for the Okanagan Real Estate Investment Group. So maybe somebody here, maybe somebody listening, or if you know somebody who's trying to grow their marketing, we have a good room of action takers. And so keep that in mind, and you talk to me about that. All right, so Kim gets a little more time. In fact, I told her she can take as long as she wants because she is an OREG sponsor, and that's another benefit of being an OREG sponsor. But I've got my timer over here that I am going to watch for everybody else. Come on up, Kim.
Okay, from the class. Well, good evening, friends, and it's my pleasure to be here. I've known Julie coming up on 3 years. I was introduced to her when we first came here from Langley, and so we became fast friends. And then, of course, she's a great teacher and guide around real estate investment. Loves to bring people together. So today was a social media day for my business, and it was a very long day. And one of the things that my social media manager asked me to do was, what are the first 5 words that come to you when I say property management, right? It's a little trick that's going on social media right now. And I said investment, care, service, family, home. And that is how I approach all of I call them my properties, they're not, but they are. Right? I'm responsible for them, I am responsible to the landlord for them, I am responsible for those tenants. And I care. And I know it's really, property managers seem to have this interesting reputation, and it's disappointing for me to hear that, but my only goal is to be better than that. And so I'll just tell you a little bit about myself. I started in community service as a young woman. I've been in the workforce for 35 years, and moved up and into, again, community service with 2 members of parliament. I had a 15-year career working for the House of Commons, and my work there was all about the community, serving the community and serving the member of parliament and serving our government. So that included everything from casework management, which people come in and they've got some crazy problem with the federal government department and they're stuck. So it was my job to help move them through that in a way that was respectful, and also I could educate them, because some people just don't understand what their rights and responsibilities are in this country, and that's just fine. But a lot of it is really personal, right? They're coming to me with their terrible, long, awful Canada Revenue tax story. They're coming to me because they've been trying to get their parents here from abroad for 5 years. They are coming to you because someone's died and they need to figure out how to do the benefits, and oh my God, who do I tell, and all these things. So I'm very well educated in how to help people through hard times. And I find that landlords and tenants are kind of in that sphere sometimes. After that, I had a business of my own. I had a cleaning company with 7 staff, and that kind of, cinched my entrepreneurial spirit and made it really difficult for me to go back and work for other people. I became a very bad employee after that. Then I decided, okay, I better figure stuff out. So we moved up here to Kelowna, where my brother lived, and at the time he had a development and construction company. So I went to work in his office and spent 2 years in construction, and then was also development coordinator for him. And when things went flat, we were like, okay, because we're so small, we're gonna have to think of something else. And then I just, with the support of some friends and family, they said, you know what, try something new. So I married, property management and my 35 years of customer service, community service, together, and I got my license. So here I am, Kim Lin Property Management. I work alongside Canada Flex Realty Group, small shop in town, about 50 realtors, and we have 5 property managers. So it was my great pleasure when Julie asked if I consider sponsoring to do so, and I just want to make sure you guys all know who I am, and if you ever want to talk property management, I'm happy to talk about the mindset. It's required to be a good landlord and a calm landlord and a responsible landlord. I'm happy to come to the home and do a quick assessment around, is it rental ready? Lots of people think, it's fine. People, will live anywhere. No, people won't, and nor should they in some cases either. So I spend a lot of time talking to landlords about small things and things that make people understand that you care about your home, because if you don't care about your home, your tenants are sure as hell aren't going to do it, right? And that's what you want, right? You want good quality tenants in there who are going to take care of your place and pay their rent and be good neighbors in your neighborhood. And then of course there's tenant placement, and then the monthly management and all the things that trail out of that too. So if anybody, I've got cards, so if anybody wants to chat or have a one-to-one or go for coffee, please call me up. I would be happy to chat with you. Thanks so much.
Okay, anybody else? Open mic? Deal? Service? Success story? Rob has a success story, but he says he's shy, and I don't believe him. But still, it's up to him.
Oh, sure, Jill. Come up there.
Great.
All right, I'll make it real quick because I only have 90 seconds here. So my name's Rob McMillan. I'm a local real estate investor here in Kelowna. So something that I've been doing recently is wholesaling. So came across a deal in Coldstream, and I knew it wasn't something that was going to really work for me, but I thought I'm going to market this thing, and I made 70 grand. So I told Julie about that. So that's my story.
That's a good story.
What about the other deal?
What's that?
What about the other deal?
Oh.
90 seconds of story, Rob, so keep it
Sorry, I got one more. I forgot about that one.
Doing
It's just
great.
living in the fast lane here. But so I seen another deal in Penticton, same sort of thing. I thought, hey, you know what? Probably make some money on that. And then I flipped it in a day. I made $35,000 bucks. So that was all last week. So
$100,000 Rob. New nickname.
Yeah.
105, sorry.
just sign the contract.
Anyone else?
Contract and sign.
Come up there, Julie.
Yes, Craig, please. Everybody welcome Craig.
All right. My name's Craig. I'm a mortgage broker. Spoke here a few times, but anyway, just kind of getting everybody up to speed on an opportunity that's out there. I spoke about this a couple months ago, but it still exists. TD mortgages. So there's a bunch of TD mortgages that are floating around that were funded back in like 2023 when the rates were at their absolute peak. Every single fixed TD mortgage can currently be broken with 3 months interest penalty, which normally when you have an interest rate environment that's come down dramatically, you have an enormous interest rate differential penalty. And when you say to the bank, I want to break my mortgage for a lower rate, they say your penalty is 60 grand. You say, okay, I'm not going to do that. But anyway, right now, TD has not lowered their posted rates, and that's what they compare against for their reinvestment rates, and that's what calculates the penalties. They haven't changed it in like a year, and every other bank has lowered them. So just to give you like a numbers example, $1 million mortgage taken out late 2023 at 6%. Anybody, what's 6% of $1 million? $60,000. Sorry, I'm gonna do this as quick as I can. 60 grand. That's 12 months worth of interest. In 1 year, you're gonna pay 60 grand. What's 3 months interest? Divide that by 4. You have $15,000 penalty you can get out of that mortgage. You can now get a 4% rate or close to it. What's 2%? That's a 2% spread. Anybody? What's 2% of $1 million?
20,000.
You got 3 years left on that mortgage. 60,000. You pay 15 to break. You save 60. There's a delta there of 45 grand. So those are real numbers from what I just did in Ontario a month ago. So they're out there, and there's a bunch of people with TD mortgages, and they have no idea they could do exactly that. So as soon as they lower their posted rate, that door closes, but there's an opportunity right now. So that's my piece. Thank you.
And Craig works with one of our partners recently, and we have taken him, he's gone to several institutions, kept getting turned down. Craig is like a magician. Did very, very well for this situation, so I highly recommend Craig.
I can vouch for that.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody else? Okay, going once, going twice. All right. So let's have Jamila and Andre back up for more questions. And don't feel pressure. If you don't have a lot of questions, then that's okay too. We can just network again. Everybody was having fun doing that, and then I interrupted. But you know, my job.
Does anyone have water?
Yeah, does anybody have, do you want some water? Yeah. Here, I'll help you. I got you.
Thank you.
Andre, do you want water?
I just loaded up.
Okay.
All right, well, we gave you a lot of information there. Now that it's digested a little bit, is there any questions? Yes, thank you.
Oh, do you mind repeating the question so that it gets captured on the recording?
Absolutely.
Please, thank you.
If you were buying a piece of property today to do 4 or 6 units like you're talking about, what would be your ideal land cost per door?
Wow. Okay, if you're buying a piece of property today to redevelop, what would be the ideal land cost per door? For resale or for rental?
Let's go with resale.
I was
So-
hoping he'd say rental.
Yeah, me too. Resale's so tough because of the
Let's talk about
comps.
Okay,
Let's talk about
what do you think?
Rental 125. At 120, if you can get a deal done at 125 a door, you are gonna make about just around 5% yield day one, which is reasonable, like yield on money in.
That's why we
And
talked.
that's assuming. So sorry, that's assuming no financing. If you start adding financing in it, you have to run the numbers that way. But let's just say it's a clean deal. You want to put your money somewhere. You want to make a coupon rate. 125 a door will make you 5%. That's without any appreciation. That's without anything. That's cash on cash.
That's a lot of the reason why we talked about buying in today's existing price and then tearing down and building on it. You're not seeing that happening rapidly in the valley because it's hard to make the numbers work for that. That's why if you have been sitting on land, adding units to the backyard, even buying and adding units to the backyard now becomes more attractive because you're not tearing down the original asset and you're adding rental income to the back. And then of course, the unicorns that we love, if you can find it big enough to subdivide and put 8, that's where the 125 per door starts to make sense.
And 125 per door, you're gonna see that like kind of in your Rutland neighborhoods. You'll be able to get 125 and you do 6, and then the lease rate I was using in my head was 3,000 for a 3-bedroom, which is a bit low. You probably could get 1,100 a bed in Rutland as well. So maybe you're making 5.5–6% yield. But yeah, 125, 1 to 140-ish a door is kind of where I would target.
Come on, you guys. There's got to be more questions in there.
who's your preferred architect or draftsman?
Oh, that's a good question too. That's what makes us special.
So the question is, who is the preferred architect or draftsman? It depends.
Yeah. So here's the thing I find in BC is architects and draftsmen are always trying to design the new Vogue dress that ends up on the cover of the magazine. They love beautiful buildings. There's a lot of award shows. A lot of stuff is motivating draftsmen and architects to design architecturally beautiful buildings, and it's what drives them and motivates them. And the thing is when you go to an architect and draftsperson and you sit down, you say, okay, I want to build a rental building, and they can punch up their computer and be like, oh, well, the average cost per square foot for construction for a rental building is this. And you're like, great, let's design it. That is the last time they think about that cost per square foot number. Okay? They're designing you a beautiful building. If you don't have a builder involved in that process with you, you have no idea what this thing's going to cost at the end. There are 2 really great designers in town, an architect and a draftsperson that actually has the ability to design nice things that's reaching a target construction cost. I'm telling you, there's things like high heel trusses that add tens of thousands of dollars to your build that are strictly to make the fascia. Anyone know what the fascia is? Nope. Strictly to make the fascia look cooler, and you have no idea it's going in to your plan. Okay, so please have someone who understands the cost of construction and building involved in the process of making your plans.
Or a jog or a bump out.
Yeah. As soon as you're doing jogs and bumps outs, you're ruining your airtight seal and your energy efficiency, which is so important right now to get builds across the line. Yes?
What is your target construction cost you're looking at in this area right now for rentals for those multi-family units?
What is your target construction cost that you're looking for right now? Well, we've actually been doing a lot of pricing on buildings to try and have the most relevant number in that space, because pre-COVID, no problem. I had put together projects at the beginning, at the end, 0.002% of the original budgeted price. COVID hit, And I was over budget the day I started construction. Like, it was just insane. Lumber was going up. Like, a lot of construction products are commodities, so you're paying what you're paying the day you order it. So all the lessons we learned in that, we wanted to price projects in real time. We did design out a fourplex project that we were shooting for entry level, like what entry level would look like today. That one came at about $270 a square foot.
Yes.
And I just finished a high-end elevators, big square footage, big garage, rooftop patios, all that kind of stuff. And that one came in at $340 a square foot. So, sorry.
You're good.
That would kind of be the range that you want to stay in. Did that answer the question? I go on rants sometimes and I forget the question.
At 270 to 340, pretty comfortable range. Depends on what happens with labor too, because if it starts to go crazy and everyone starts building again, then we don't have enough tradespeople in this town, and it starts to get funky.
So some things to mitigate risks in that. Pre-planning is super important. It's one thing to design the plans. So the problem with designing plans and shopping for a builder is, one, your builder wasn't involved in the plan design. So all those little things ended up in there that are gonna cost you extra money. And they're gonna tell you this, and then you're like, oh, that's gonna cost me more money to change now with the architect, if you believe that builder. Then you're going to find a builder that say it's fine and rattles you off a number, but you haven't picked a kitchen sink, you haven't picked a toilet, you haven't picked your cabinets, you haven't designed your trim out, like you haven't done any of this stuff. So every single thing about that estimate, even if it's laid out on a nice pretty sheet with all the categories, is an allowance. And it's a guess. And it's their educated guess on the last project they did and what things cost. But you probably even had a conversation about the style and finish. They're assuming a lot of things in that. That is very typical. That is how initial quotes are done all the time in this industry. It's why jobs are cost overrun. What you need to do is design your plans to construction drawings, building permit ready construction drawings. You need to have an energy advisor involved in that process, and you need to select all of your finishes and tender that build before you go into construction. That is the only way that you can mitigate the risks of cost overruns. The other thing is that we're still in an who knows what the F is going to happen climate with tariffs and everything that's going on. So if you can do all that work up front and you decide to pull the trigger, guess what? You can PO every single one of those items. You can order your cabinets, you can order your plumbing, you can lock all of that pricing in. You don't go and start construction and then order cabinets, 3 months later, and
which happens all the time.
All the time. That's normal. That's normal process.
Standard process is you order stuff as you go.
Yeah.
Because nobody has anywhere to warehouse it, or you have to fight with your suppliers to warehouse it, or any multitude of reasons.
But if you can do that all up front, you can mitigate all the rest of surprise cost overruns while you're actually building it, and you're stuck. There's nothing else you can do. You got to do it. And then shopping around at that point, means delay of time, means interest money. So you really end up in a stuck position if you're diving into your build and you haven't PO'd and picked everything out prior to.
And you can't blame the builders, right? Because they don't have the job yet. So why would they dump
it's a lot of
20,
time.
30, 40 hours into, quoting all of your stuff instead of just giving you the allowance that they had on the job 6 months ago?
Yeah.
Right? But when you have that allowance, you just don't know. And then when you're ordering it 6 months into your build, you just want the thing done. So if it's 10 grand over, you're kind of stuck. Yeah, I'll pay the 10 grand, whatever, let's get it done.
Yeah. And a lot of times too, to pick everything out up front, you may need a designer involved, which also costs more money. And a lot of people don't want to spend money until they know what it costs. So it's a real catch-22 in this industry, and it's created its own problems because of it. So we love doing infill. And one of the things that I love about infill is that there's very few times the government and the world aligns where the little guy can make some money, right? And right now we're floating in that situation where all the politicians thinks the solution to our affordable housing and our housing crisis is infill.
Yeah.
And convincing everyday people to develop their land. So they're all behind you right now. And when I started doing infill 8 years ago, I do love when an investor comes along with deep pockets and says, go and build this. Like, that's great. But I really enjoy sitting with a homeowner that thinks, oh, I'm just going to sell this off and I'm going to take the uplift on the land and make my 200 grand and I'm good with that. And then when you can sit down with them and you can say, okay, I know you've never taken a loan for $2 million before and it might scare the crap out of you, but bear with me. And you walk them through the full business plan. It's the worst time to get the tickle. And you can show them how they can leverage equity, they can set up their construction payments within their loan, they can flip into a mortgage and have rental revenue paying off the difference. They can be financially in the same position as when they started, as when they end, with increased net worth, additional housing, and additional monthly revenue. That's I love
the goal.
doing.
Yeah, that's the goal of what we're trying to do.
So we created a plan, and we created this plan because the industry just is not set up to cater to the individual owner that is not doing this all the time.
Yeah, like it's from the conversations we've had, it's that guidance through the whole design and permitting stage that just brings so much value to people, because not everybody knows how to like call Fortis and see if there's going to be a need for a transformer or not, right? And get them to run the calculations and what those calculations mean and how much is a transformer and am I the first one on the block, so I have to put the guidance portion of it is really crucial to creating that plan and just fixing your cost as much as you can. Especially nowadays where it seems like fixed price contracts for builds kind of don't exist, at least here anymore. Everything's cost plus. Locking down your costs is crucial.
Yeah, so what we do is we start with a free consultation with homeowners, and we listen to what their goal is, like what their needs are. Is it a retirement plan? Is it multi-generational housing? Is it downsizing? Is it adding rental to existing rental properties? And we come up with a scenario. We might have a suggestion. For example, we met people, they just wanted to create a place for the in-laws to come. We said, okay, you could create this, and if you add like a hotel suite style 500 square foot on this side, the way it was positioned, it was straight access off the street. They never have to enter the property. They could have an Airbnb revenue property there that then pays for the whole construction of the whole thing. So we come up with those types of scenarios. We sit with our a draft person or architect, depending on who's applicable for the project, and we create kind of some boxes, understand the finished square footage. We create a cost estimate plan based on projects that we're currently pricing, including the development cost charges, everything else that comes along outside of your construction costs, landscaping, all of that kind of stuff. And we give you the most educated estimate, an idea of what you can do without spending any money. Then we move into a phase 2 project, which is the development permit portion, which is where basically the money you need to spend to have that concrete exact plan of what you're doing and be ready to go into building.
And all your permits done.
Yeah. So survey, design, energy advisor, interior finishes, exterior finishes, development permit applications, Fortis conversations, all of the things that go on with
And
that.
a full budget.
Full tendered budget, full detailed finish plan, full black line drawings, everything laid out that you could hand to an appraiser and the appraiser is not going to question what's going in this thing, and they can give you the best value. Mortgage broker will tell you right now, making sure your appraisal, it gets the best opportunity to hit the right number is the only way deals come together these days. So we try to give the best package possible. That whole process takes about a year of your life, like we talked about, getting ready for that. And at that point, then it would be moving into phase 3, which would be a build contract, where we build out the project and then hand you the keys.
Two questions. First of all, with municipalities fast tracking building permits and things, is there a fast track option to that first year at all?
So you have to use the fast track plans. Question. We should repeat the question.
Yes.
Yeah.
The question was, I don't remember exactly, but is there a way to fast track the design phase, the development permit stage with the fast track plans? Are you good?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So there are fast track plans, like municipalities have implemented fast track plans. Actually, the first time around when Kelowna did the RU7, it was the reason why it was so successful is they had 2 fast track plans that were done. One, the business plan worked and made money. The other one was pretty. That's why there's a lot of the fourplex. You'll see the same building built all through that area. Kelowna currently has fast track plans, and I stood up in front of the city planners and told them, nobody's going to build this. It doesn't make any money. Nobody has built them. They're very beautiful. They're going to be on the front of a magazine if anyone builds one of them, but no one's built them. They are currently out to tender to rehire architects to design 6 to 8 more fast track plans.
So this is the 3rd round now. So the first round, the fast track plans, you actually can't build them anymore, or at least the one that makes you money. You can't build it anymore because the city deemed that there's too many of them being built.
They got too many complaints.
It's stupid because they look great, and
Yeah.
it's like they haven't driven down their own streets and like looked around.
Yeah.
Anyways, so that was the first round. So that you can't do those anymore. Now you can only build the second round fast track plans, which are very over designed and not economical.
I don't even think they would pass an energy advisor, to be honest with you. I don't think
anybody's built them.
Yeah.
If anybody's seen those ones built, let us know, because I don't think anybody built a round 2 fast track plan.
We're in Summerland, so I don't think like it would be a specified plan. But
No.
so they are putting building permits through like really quickly.
So, and the city of Kelowna also, the building permit process is pretty quick once you get them in there.
Yeah.
It's the development permit process that is slower. And that takes more time in all the municipalities. So the fast track plans, those municipalities don't have fast track plans, but the fast track plans are pre-development approved. So when there is a fast track plan, you don't have to go through a year of development permit application. You just buy those plans, you submit for building permit. They've already been reviewed 100 times by the city, so they can usually get them out in like a week, and you're building. That was also a lot of the success of the first program. And it's great if the market's going and you don't want to miss the market. It's a great way to get a product out there and into construction and up for sale right away. But Calgary's coming out. They just did a call out for fast track plans. I don't really know many other municipalities that have fast track plans. We should probably look into that.
No, and what I understand that the province is trying to do like their own kind of fast track plans that fit. I'm concerned with that in terms of like sizing it to specific lots. There might just be a lot of design work required. I'm not really sure how that's gonna work.
Our little house on our property is a Eaton's catalog special, so like that was the original fast track.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great. I wish they did that still, but yeah.
There was so much success in that because lots were big.
Yeah.
You weren't trying to build like lot line to lot line, so you had a lot of, you could put this thing kind of anywhere. The building code book was like this thick. Now it's 5 binders with energy code and fire efficiencies, right? Like, that was a great time. That's how we go back to affordable housing.
It is.
More Vancouver
So 30
specials.
years later.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you, is there any other questions before I ask the second one? Can you speak a little bit to your services pricing, like where do you generate your money from, and what does that look like as the process goes along?
Yeah, so first phase is free. We typically do it in about 4 visits to help you kind of get that initial business plan concept, understanding what it's going to cost. You can talk to a mortgage broker and see if your finances make sense along as that plan stays in place. What you can't get is an approval in that stage. That's one thing you have to understand. It's really to just give you the confidence to move to stage 2 or stop the bus, right? Stage 2, we make a fee for development. That development fee depends on what we're doing. It's a condo building, a 4-plex, or a carriage home. It's all different scopes of work, and we include that in the fee proposal for phase 2 if you move ahead for that. Where we really make our money is on the construction side, doing the construction project at the end. So our goal is to build that relationship and that trust and work with you right through to the end of the project.
The development fee in phase 2 is gonna be less than like the counters you put in your home. It's really not a significant portion of it. That's not really the scope of like we're trying to make money in that portion. That's not really it. We want the bills.
You build in Summerland?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
all through the Okanagan Valley. Yeah. I actually just finished a 52-lot subdivision in Penticton, and I love going to Penticton because I get to drive there when everyone's driving in along the lake, and then I get to drive home when everyone's going back, so it's great. And there's wine all along the way. Megan actually drives on those days. I sit in the passenger seat. Megan's my assistant.
Me and show me the good winery.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, we love the South. And OK Falls, like people. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, land in OK Falls.
Yeah.
Okay, Falls is very fun.
Yeah. Lake Country blew up because of Kelowna. OK Falls is the lake country of Penticton. I don't know if you stop in Penticton, it's literally a 15-minute drive around the lake and it's right there. There's like nothing there. Penticton can't go anywhere else with their land. They are completely landlocked.
Yeah.
There was a guy out of Vancouver that put 100 acres of industrial they're developing there and putting in
OK Falls.
in OK Falls. That it's gonna blow.
There's a lot of industry there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're gonna need housing. They already need housing, but yeah, it's and you know, costs are low. Not a lot of red tape. It's a good spot. I actually 4 years ago was telling everyone to buy Penticton.
You were?
That place. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah, we've got a 4-plex down there, right? We still have that? Everyone has their department. Yeah, OK Falls. Look at OK Falls. And Lakeview Heights. Because so much of Kelowna thinks it's the old bridge and they're scared to go across it. We replaced it 10 years ago. The thing doesn't go up anymore. It doesn't change, like, they don't shut lanes down in the middle of the afternoon. There's like, it just flows.
Yeah, as long as it's not a bomb threat.
Right.
Who went around, by show of hands, who went around to Vernon? Yeah, okay, nice.
He drove around.
I went around.
Yeah, my daughter's boyfriend had to because he had a course he had to
Yeah.
do, so
Yeah.
he was a little late.
Yeah, just a little bit, hey? Any other questions, concerns, comments, heckles?
It's right across the bridge. It's the mission of West Kelowna, except it's closer to downtown.
It's on the
Yeah,
rail
it is,
trail,
actually.
or the wine trail.
Yeah. Mission Hill, Bushery,
Mhm.
Quails Gate, right in their doorsteps.
As you're going, back.
I own a house there.
On the left.
I just think you're right.
She also has department heads.
Like Quail Street Winery.
Yeah.
You have Lakeview Heights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the triplex I wanna talk to you about.
Oh, I love Lakeview Heights. Let's
Okay,
go,
we need to-
girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Yeah.
I need help.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Just thank you so much for, this was incredible.
Good, awesome.
But amazing, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. We call us. We love talking about this stuff. And market's flat, we got a lot of time right now, so.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, everybody, that was awesome. Now, I don't know about you, but it's been a little scary lately. Am I right? Anybody else feel like fear in the air? Am I the only one? So I saw this quote, my sister sent it to me because she loves me. So this may speak to one of you. If it only speaks to one of you, then I'm fine with that. Tough times create strong people. You've heard that, right? Mm-hmm. And tough times create innovation, creativity. You guys are a perfect example of like, okay, let's turn this quilt into a prom dress. I just thought of that off the top of my head. That is not what my sister sent me. I'd like to just share this with you. And when you're having those moments of fear, maybe you think of this, and maybe it helps you. There are 3 traps of Satan that steal joy and peace: regretting about the past, fear for the future, and ingratitude for the present. And if nothing else, as far as gratitude is concerned, we live here. And Alberta might be the place to buy, but I'm telling you, this is the place to live. And there are so many people here now from Alberta that I think some more creativity is going to be, coming to the surface. So, thank you again for being here. I hope to see each and every one of you again next month. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for being here. Andre and Jamila, I hope you decide to join, and your whole team. By the way, let's introduce their team. We have Megan in the back. We have Jeff right here. This is Jeff. And where's Cole? Oh, Cole snuck out.
Yeah.
But he was really nice. You just have to take my word for it. All right, see you guys next time.
Thank you.